Cool. Let's talk about scissor sweeps. So I saw a coach saying that they no longer teach scissor sweeps at all because it's extremely low percentage. And you were saying, we were talking this morning about how you hate when people are on their knees. Right. And so scissor sweeps from you.
That's when you're supposed to hit it, is when they're on both knees, right? I mean, if they're in combat base though, and they have like if you have that foot up in your combat base, I can hit one from here too, right? That's a money spot to hit one. So, and check it out, like what that person says is true for them, but like I've tried to get away from that, man. As a coach, as an instructor, I have tried over the years to get away from calling things high percentage and low percentage in general, because it's just not true. It's just not true, man. Like for me, cross collar chokes are low percentage. Ask Hodge or Gracie how low percentage cross collar chokes are, right? Like there's somebody out there that's a monster at scissor sweeps and is like, what are you talking about? I can hit those from everywhere, right? They're not low percentage at all, right? But for that professor that said that, they are, right? And maybe even for like what he's observed in his gym over the years is that, man, it's just low percentage. I'll teach it and then nobody will ever hit it. And it's true, there are a lot of moves like that. You know, like we were talking about, a lot of closed guard techniques, you know, end up being really hard to hit in the gym because everybody starts avoiding the closed guard, right? And there's a million techniques from the inside the closed guard, and you could stump all of them by standing up, right? Now there's no techniques you could do from your closed guard, right? So it's like, yeah, people will learn to avoid the positions, but to call anything high percentage or low percentage, you have to remember that you're just talking about your game, right? And I used to do that. I used to state it like fact, and I remember, I don't know what it was that like epiphanied me, but yeah, I remember one day I just stopped doing that, and I even started correcting myself because I had the habit of saying it. So I would say, oh, this is low percentage, and then I'd have to stop and be like, for me, okay? And it's low percentage when I don't tend to hit this very often, right? And here's why I don't hit it very often. But no, man, there's no such thing as something that's low percentage or high percentage, like for each, that's generalized. It's only that for each individual person.
And I think a lot of it is the setup. So if you have a game that puts somebody into a certain position where they have to base in a certain way,
right,
you might have a low percentage technique that now works all the time just because you have a habit of bringing them to a place where they don't have a base, and then boom, scissor sweep.
Right. Scissor sweep, push sweep, a lot of those sweeps, they're like related.
But if you're playing a different type of game where they're never really putting their legs in that configuration, then you're not going to hit that sweep. Yeah,
no, for sure. And I mean, I wouldn't want to eliminate a technique from like my teaching curriculum just because, you know, it's low percentage. And there are plenty of moves that I don't teach as often as others.
Yeah.
And I do. If you ask me, well, why don't you teach that specific technique as much as you teach the Kimura, right, or something? I would say because I feel like there's more Kimura opportunities in jiu-jitsu than there are whatever other move, right? But again, that's just from my experience, man.
There's definitely techniques that happen from various positions, and then there's techniques that only work in this one aspect.
Right.
And you can dive into that one aspect and everything, but if somebody's new and you teach them a triangle from guard, you teach them a triangle from side control, you teach them a triangle from mount, right? So here's a simple technique that we're talking about that can be applied no matter where you are with some variations. They're going to be able to take that one technique and apply it across the board.
Right. Totally.
Same thing with Kimuras, right?
Yeah, 100%. They're everywhere.
So if you're teaching a lot of Kimuras, triangles, arm bars, these are going to be moves that are hit everywhere.
Right.
And you can figure out how to flow from one position to the next with that piece and control.
Right.
Whereas if you're, talking about a certain one move, this has to be here, this has to be there. Okay, that's kind of like later on. That, I guess that would be what I would consider advanced techniques, is specifics of running down this rabbit hole. But you would have had to practice this position for 6 months before we're into this rabbit hole.
I mean, and to a certain extent, you almost need a bit of cooperation from your opponent, because again, people can avoid certain positions like the plague, like they can avoid them. They can not ever be in your closed guard if they're good enough to avoid it, right? So. And I think that's where you would come up with a high percentage, low percentage, like, and actually be correct, is when you're talking about like a scissor sweep, is pretty much there's a select few spots where you can even hit a scissor sweep, right? It's not like a Kimura or a triangle, and there's so many spots. So technically, if you break down the numbers of it, yeah, it's hit less often than this move. But still, you can get good at them, and you don't want to not have it for when they are in that position. You know, if they do combat base with the opposite foot up, it's good to have that reaction to hit that scissor sweep. You know what I mean? Or if they are on both knees, like not everybody, you know, understands like that you should never be on both knees, like unless you're in a great position. If I'm in your guard, I need to be trying to stand up to get a you know, shin shield up, combat base, or whatever. Like, but a lot of people, they're taught, and there's black belts out there, Hickson style black belts that live on their knees, man. In your guard, on your knees, passing on my knees, smashing on my knees, never get off my knees, right? And they're good. It's not low percentage for them, right? That's high percentage for them. But yeah, it's very individual, man. But you still teach them. You still teach them stuff, even if you consider it, you know, like there's less spots to hit this move from, whatever the person needs to, you know, even though they could just stand up to avoid it, I still will teach them, man. And then I'll just be honest with my students. I'll say, you know, if we're like, it's Kimura week right now at my gym for my kids classes. The last 2 weeks have been Kimura weeks, and we've been doing them from everywhere, right? If it was scissor sweep week at my gym, I would just be honest with them, and I say, you know how I tell you that Kimuras are everywhere? Scissor sweeps aren't really everywhere, but they are definitely right here.
Yeah.
And you will find yourself every now and then in this position with this person like this. You better know how to hit a scissor sweep, and if you don't, you're lacking. You know, you should. So low percentage, whatever, still teach it, man. Cross collar choke, I mean, I still teach them all.
And classifying what considers a win on that particular move can also be varied. So if we're talking about omoplatas, but you're only qualifying omoplata if you finish the omoplata, it's going to be probably on the lower end, but it's a high percentage sweep. So if you're using it for a sweep, then you're going to say that's a high percentage move, getting away from the high percentage, low percentage. But
right, no, I know what you mean.
Tendencies. If you go for an omoplata and you get a sweep, that could be a win for you.
Right.
But if you're like, it's only good if I get the sub off of it, well, I mean, now you're going to think of omoplata as a completely different type of a move than somebody who's like, I love omoplatas to counter and get on top.
Right. Or just even as like I would even go as far as to say, if you can turn it into a control position, it's a good move.
Right.
Right? Like I had this debate with a student, purple belt student, a couple weeks ago about control positions and how submissions don't have to just be submissions. Like an arm bar, if you're really good at arm bars, like Jack, a great example, he'll control you with the arm bar. Right? Like you'll be in an arm bar and you'll be like, okay, I'm not giving it up. But you ain't going nowhere,
Right.
bud. You're gonna be stuck right there till he decides you can go. Right? You could do the same with the mataleo. You don't have to sleep a guy with a mataleo. You can just control them and use it as a control position that they'll never escape. You can do it with an omoplata. Lock in an omoplata and you know, have a good guy do it to you. And maybe you defend the sweep. Maybe you defend the submission and the sweep.
But it made space.
But where did you go?
Yeah.
Where did you go? He controlled you with it, right? If you can use anything as a control position, to me, it's success.
We're breaking grips and things. So one of the positions that I like to go to is
I ain't putting just talking about that, right? I don't like this knee stuff.
if somebody starts attacking the wrist and stuff to try to bring it over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting here will break the grip, and then you can start working on something else. So just so if you're grabbing or whatever and popping grips, so I might not get the wrist lock here,
Right,
but
you broke the grip.
broke the grip, put
Right.
this in threat, and now you don't want to grab me.
Right. No, absolutely, man.
And so a lot of those wrist locks and stuff I do when somebody's on the larger end and I know I can't
Right.
like just strip a grip,
Right.
threaten that wrist lock, and they're like, ooh, don't want to be there.
Right. It accomplishes a goal.
Yeah.
It might not get the tap. It might not even get a tap or a sweep, but it might make them want to not touch there anymore. Right? Exactly.
And grips are a huge battle, so if you can make them not want to get the best grip that they can
Yeah.
get, then, I mean, that's a win.
That's definitely a win.
Don't touch me. Don't touch
Right?
me.
Absolutely, man. Because grips suck. Absolutely, man. I'm with you. I think it's just it's the varying degree of what do you call success.
Yeah.
Right? Do you have to tap them out, and if not, it's not successful, then yeah, you're limiting yourself. Big time.